We have been following this all morning. Former President Donald Trump announcing on social media that he expects to be arrested on Tuesday in connection with the Stormy Daniels case being investigated by the Manhattan District Attorney. A Trump spokesperson within the last hour releasing the following statement reading, "There has been no notification other than illegal leaks from the Justice Department and the DA's office to NBC and other fake news carriers that the George Soros-funded radical left Democrat prosecutor in Manhattan has decided to take his witch hunt to the next level." President Trump is rightfully highlighting his innocence and the weaponization of our injustice system. And they went on to say that he'll be in Texas for a giant rally next week. And in just the last few minutes, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has released a statement about this impending arrest, saying, quote, "Here we go again. An outrageous abuse of power by a radical DA who lets violent criminals walk as he pursues political vengeance against President Trump." Again, the House Speaker reacting to reports that the Manhattan District Attorney's Office is preparing to arrest former President Donald Trump. Let's make sure that we get to Alan Dershowitz. Do we have him? There he is. Okay, terrific. Professor Dershowitz, you're no better person to talk to about this than you. So the Justice Department has looked at the Stormy Daniels case. The feds have done it. The SEC, the FEC has. The former Manhattan District Attorney has also looked at this case. And everybody has passed on prosecuting this. Now Alvin Bragg, a Soros DA who downgrades violent felonies to misdemeanors all the time, is going to try and perp walk Donald Trump. Your reaction?
Well, first, there's no reason for a perp walk under any circumstances. In a situation like this, I've had hundreds of them, the DA usually calls you and says, come in to court on Tuesday or Wednesday wearing your suit, and we'll have an arraignment, and then we'll put you on bail and we'll leave. There's no reason for a perp walk at all under these circumstances. Second, the prosecution itself is an unrighteous prosecution. It's a targeted prosecution. It's an example of the conversation between the head of the KGB and Stalin, where the KGB guy said to Stalin, show me the man, and I'll find you the crime.
Right.
This is selective, targeted prosecution. The indictment itself, if it comes forward, would be an act of hyper-creativity, combining together a federal statute, the state statute, unprecedented, unjustified, and yet likely to succeed, because in New York, you can indict a ham sandwich if you're the grand jury and probably convict a ham sandwich if his name is Trump, because the jury pool will be so dramatically opposed to Trump. This is a very bad day for America. Look, I'm a liberal Democrat. I want to vote against Trump for the third time. This has nothing to do with politics. This has to do with my lifetime commitment for a single standard of justice and no weaponization of justice. You know, the greatest Attorney General of the United States, Robert Jackson, once said that any prosecutor can rummage through the statute books. There are so many statutes and regulations, and find something on almost anybody. And that's the wrong way to approach criminal justice. Yeah. So a very, very bad day for America.
Professor, you know, for you, you're trying, you say you want to make sure that this should be about the law, right? But it does seem like it is about the politics. In my mind, they want the video, which I'm sure will be leaked, of him being fingerprinted. They want the public mugshot of Donald Trump, you know, standing there. They want him in the courtroom or, you know, being walked into a facility by cops. They want this media circus. You don't have to like Donald Trump to see what's going on here, that it smacks sort of left-wing political oppression.
Look, I wrote a whole book about this. It's just out this week. It's called Get Trump, and it's on Amazon. And it tells the whole story from the beginning. It goes through every one of the charges against them, the one in Georgia, the one in Washington, the one in Florida, and most importantly, the one in New York. And it shows not a single one of them is justified. If it wasn't Donald Trump, no prosecutor would dream of bringing this stretched indictment. The criminal law is not supposed to be an act of creativity. You're supposed to investigate people for existing, well-known crimes.
Right.
Jefferson put it very colorfully when he said, for a criminal statute to be legitimate, somebody has to be able to read it and understand it while running. Well, I'm sitting, and I don't understand it. I've taught law for 50 years. I have no idea how you can combine a federal statute about campaign contributions with a state misdemeanor statute about other things and come up. It's 1 and 1 equal 11 here, not 1 and 1 equal 2. It's just wrong.
Professor, so you're raising a really important point. This case, because it is so, as you say, creative in the way that they have cobbled all of this together, would the state of Florida have to agree to extraditing one of its citizens to New York for this immediately, or because of that creativity, could Trump's attorneys ask for some sort of intervention from the state of Florida here?
It's very difficult to get intervention when one state prosecutes the other. They've done it. I've been involved in such cases, for example, where a state wants to impose capital punishment, and the governor of New York says, no, I'm not going to send somebody to a capital punishment state. But in a case like this, it would be difficult. Also, Trump's not going to do this. He's going to show up in New York. He's not going to resist. He's already said that. And the big question is how it's treated. If the prosecution is sensible at all, they will allow him to simply come to court, be arraigned, do what's normally done, what I've done, and lawyers like me have done hundreds of times, instead of making this into a circus. But they're going to want to make this a political circus. In the end, it will help Trump politically. And remember that it doesn't matter if he's indicted or even convicted or even imprisoned. He can still run for president and serve as president. The only way he could be prevented from serving is if they proved that he actually fought in the Civil War for the South. And if they can't prove that, then they'd have to prove he's under 35 or was not born in the United States. Now, that would serve Trump right if they try to prove he wasn't born in the United States, because he tried to do that with Barack Obama. But it wasn't true. But he president, and the state can't stop it, and the legislature can't stop it. It's in the Constitution.
So just to sum up, Professor, because I want to move on to a Biden question for you here in just a second. To sum up, you don't think that this case, unless there is something that we don't know about, that it holds water. You think that it is dramatic. It smacks of a political prosecution or weaponization. You think that Trump will show up. He will cooperate with the process, but at the end of the day, because it isn't intended to prevent him from running, it really is about this making him undesirable in a general election.
There's no question about this. Purely political. Look, the Attorney General of New York ran on a campaign to get Trump. Bragg, essentially the same thing. This is 100% political. There is no basis for this prosecution, but with the judiciary in New York, you never know. The courts could uphold it. That's the problem. The problem is every part of the judicial system has become politicized. Get Trump, this get Trump business, this idea about which I wrote this book, get Trump, has permeated every aspect of our legal system. And so normally a person has a guarantee, at least, that the courts will free him. Here, there's no assurance that the courts of New York will. It may have to go up to the United States Supreme Court.
That's the whole thing here too, is that this could go on for a long time. I mean, you're going to have a trial court case, you're going to have a jury case, then you're going to have appeals, and he would likely prevail on appeal in my reading of it, but it could take a long time. For him to get there. Real quick for you, Professor, this week it was exposed through the Congress the first tranche of over $1.3 million that went from a Chinese connected company to the Biden family, a number of members of the Biden family, including one that is unnamed. A lot of folks seeing this smoke and saying, okay, is this the fire that everybody sort of thought would be there? What does any of this mean at this point?
We don't know. it should be investigated. Where there's smoke, sometimes there's arson, or people plant the smoke. So we have to know more facts. There's enough here to warrant an investigation. No one is above the law. No one is below the law. No one is exempt from the law. But no one should be targeted. So we have to make sure that this, too, is a righteous investigation. And we have to make sure that the weaponization and politicization of our criminal justice system is not used by either party against the other. It has to be purely and completely objective. And we're losing that in America. We're losing that objectivity and neutrality.
Yeah, it seems to be such a coincidence that the week that this comes out, now all of a sudden the focus of the media is going to be now back on Donald Trump. Professor Alan Dershowitz, always appreciate your insights, sir. Thank you for taking the time for us today.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.